How's it going, backpackers? Dave here with Off Grid. I'm into backpacking, hiking, camping, and gear. And today I'm starting a brand new series, a new playlist for you called Backpacking Hacks and Pro Tips. And basically I'm going to shoot for somewhere around 4 to 5 tips per episode, so I'm not kind of droning on a little bit too long in any one particular video. But let's just dive right into them. The very first one that I have for you guys today is going to be to talk about the Gigapump Lantern and Pump Combo, or also you may have heard of the Flex Tail variety, which is basically the same thing. Basically what it is just a tiny little pump that weighs just over 3 ounces. It has a light and a pump in it, so it can not only pump up your pad, but it can also act as a light source. You can hang it up either in your hammock or your tent at night, so that you can, read or watch a movie or something like that. It also can be used, and this is a shout out to Jason over at his channel Backpacking with Jason, but he had also told a few of us now that you can use it to not only dry your hair, no, I'm just kidding on that one, but you can use it to kind of like stoke a fire. So instead of using one of those long things, I forget the name of it, to kind of like blow into the fire to kind of ignite it and get it going, you can also use this lantern to use the pump feature to kind of get enough airflow into your fire to get that going. That's pretty much all of the uses that I can think of right away, but that is definitely a versatile piece of gear that you might want to consider picking up. The second hack that I have for you today is also by Jason, so he's providing the majority of the list today, guys, but he had mentioned too, and this is not necessarily coming straight from him, I've heard this from a few different sources, but this is in regards to your backpacking chairs. If you have the Helinox Chair Zero or the REI FlexLite Air Chair, and basically just any chair with a back that you like to bring with you to camp to kind of relax on, what you may end up noticing is that those chairs, especially if you're on soft or sort of like wet ground, you're going to end up sinking in because the legs are kind of like peg-like and very narrow. So one of the ways that you can combat that is to just take a log and slide it underneath your chair, whichever direction that the legs are going in, if it's like traditional from like side to side, or if it's kind of like a weirdo like the REI FlexLite Air Chair where it kind of goes from front to back. Wherever you can fit a small log underneath it, what that's going to end up doing is preventing those peg-like feet from just sinking into the soft ground. All right, tip number 3 that I have for you today is going to be for your trowels. Actually, multiple different uses that you can use for your trowel. Actually, at least a couple that I can think of, other than just digging your cat holes. And one of the biggest ones that you can use it for is an additional stake. A lot of the models have a loop up towards where you usually dig it with your hand, that you can attach it to like the outside of your pack with a carabiner. You can use it that way. But one of the biggest things that I can think of is if you bust a tent stake when you're out in the field and you want to use something to tie out your tarp or your tent or whatever, you can use something like either the Deuce of Spades, which I graduated from, or the Vargo Dig trowel is another great example. Use that little loop at the top, tie some of your guy line through that, and just shove that into the ground. Now obviously you're gonna have to pull that up if you have to use the bathroom or the facilities in the morning, but in a pinch you can definitely use that to use as an additional stake to guy out any kind of bear cord or guy line. All right, the fourth thing that I got for you guys is going to be for the multi-use poncho. In one of my recent videos I had talked about my most versatile piece of gear, which is a poncho with like arm cutouts. I would definitely recommend that style, something that's a little bit more sturdy rather than just like an emergency kind of poncho for your rain gear, and then also over the traditional raincoats, because it's going to provide a multitude of different things for you out in the field. You've got sun protection, you've got wind protection, and then obvious rain protection as well. You can use it as what I'm dubbing as a poop shield or a poop skirt, where you can have a little bit more privacy when you're in the backcountry, but it's just a ton of different uses for that thing. I use it for a platform for my shower if I'm taking a military shower when I'm out there, or you can lay extra gear on it, particularly if you're a hammock camper and you already have a tarp and you're using it for something else, kind of just using it as a ground sheet. There's many different uses for that poncho, especially the ones that just kind of like lay out and kind of unfurl to sort of like a big rectangle. So definitely recommend a poncho, a super versatile piece of gear. And the last hack and pro tip that I have for you today, number 5, is going to be the water socks, or mentioning water socks. If you've never heard of these before, you might have heard of them around town a little bit. A lot of guys like to use it in a little bit colder environments, but I particularly like to use it, especially if it's either going to be really rainy on a backpacking trip, or if you're going to have multiple stream crossings when you're out there. The main reason for that is because you don't want to have wet and soggy feet when you're out there. A lot of guys will just say, well, it's something that you have to deal with. You're going to have your trail runners with your normal socks on. You can kind of ride up the pant leg, but you're going to end up crossing through streams and getting wet anyway, and I kind of disagree with that. But it really depends on how deep the stream or the river crossing is. So I normally like to carry two different styles of socks. I have one that kind of just comes up to my calf, which is the one that I primarily use, and then there's another one that goes right towards my knee, and it really depends on the types of trips that you're going to be going on and how high you think the level of water is going to be. Obviously that's just kind of like a guessing game, but you know, I definitely would recommend water socks, particularly because you just don't want to have wet and soggy feet when you're out there, and that's really just to use with your trail runner. Your trail runners or your boots are still going to get wet, but at least your feet won't, and I think that'll go a long way in preventing blisters. So that's it for this one, guys. Those are the first 5 ever backpacking hacks and pro tips that I have for you guys. And again, I'm going to kick off an entire series. I don't know how long it's going to run, but check out the playlist as I add more to them, and I'm really excited to kick this one off. If you have any comments based off of the tips that I had mentioned today, please leave them in the comments below. I love reading all the comments that you guys provide. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, if you're headed off grid, make sure you do your research and you make it a safe one. I'll see you on the next one.